Welcome to episode number 11 of the Blitz Take. I am here with TJ Pinajor, who is a diehard Florida State football fan, and I'm excited to see what he has to say about this upcoming season.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me on. Football. There was the NFL game last night. Football's back really, really soon, and it's coming quickly. So I'm excited for it for sure.
So my first question is, what are your initial thoughts on the upcoming season?
Yeah, no, I think it's it's been down times for Florida State recently, right? I haven't made a bowl game in 4 years, haven't had a winning season haven't had a winning season in 4 years, haven't been a bowl the last couple of years. I think it's trying times, but I think there's a lot of optimism. I think there's a lot of positivity across the fan base, and I think they are cautiously optimistic that the team will improve this year, will make a bowl, potentially get to 7, 8, 9 wins with a bowl win as well. And so I think there's cautious optimism, and that's kind of where I am too. I think the team will be much improved. I do think they'll make a bowl. Can they do enough to make it a good season as opposed to just a slightly above average? That's where the jury's probably still out. The start of the schedule is fairly tough with having to go to New Orleans and to Louisville in the first 3 weeks. But I think it sets up well. I think that there's tempered expectations, but I think their expectations are good nonetheless, right?
What are your thoughts on going to the Superdome on September 4th against LSU?
I think Florida State's catching LSU at a good time. I think that you're getting a program that lost a lot of guys. You're getting a brand new coach in. You're getting to play that game in somewhat of a neutral environment, as opposed to if they were having to go to Baton Rouge, which as a fan, I'd probably rather go to Baton Rouge. But I think there's some things that are working in FSU's favor for that game. Florida State gets the tune-up game against Duquesne the week earlier. And so I think there are a lot of things that are working in FSU's favor for that game. LSU is not the LSU of old right now. I mean, they also finished under 500. They went 6-7, lost their bowl game. And, I think that as many pros as there are, there's a lot of cons too, right? Like, you're still going to New Orleans. You still have to travel. Still probably going to be more New Orleans, more LSU fans there than FSU fans, though it's not a ton. And there's a lot of talent on that team. That defensive line is absolutely nasty. One of the best in the country, top 5 in the nation. Last time they faced a defensive line that was that good, they gave up 6 sacks against Clemson. I do expect Florida State's offensive line to be better this year, and so maybe that's not the worst situation like it would have been last year. But a tough game that I think Florida State will have every chance to win. I don't know if I'm picking FSU just yet. In that game, I think it really could go either way. Some of it may have to do with who LSU starts at quarterback, and a tough game to start the year after the kind of the auto win against Duquesne, but going to be a fantastic experience, great atmosphere. We're all going to enjoy it a ton, but that game could go either way at this point, and I can't wait until we get there for sure.
So are you going to be there in person?
I am going. Yeah. So should be a ton of fun, but I'm going. We're doing a tailgate beforehand. Should be a lot of fun for sure.
I'll definitely be watching also.
Absolutely. No, that one should be fun.
My next question is, what are your thoughts on the conference?
Yeah. So I think the ACC is in some trouble. I don't know that they stick around too much longer. I'm not in regards to maybe the conference realignment type stuff, or who I think kind of comes out of the conference and wins. Which way you want to take that?
Like the conference, like the winning side of things.
Yeah. So I think it's still, I mean, they were down last year and still won like 9-10 games, right? But I still think it's Clemson's to win. I think Miami will end up coming out of the other side this year. I mean, we've said that before, and they're not usually very good at following through on stuff, but their schedule is just so weak. And I think Van Dyke is a good quarterback. So I think it'll be Miami and Clemson in the ACC championship. And I think Clemson wins fairly easily, probably wins by, 14 to 21 points. And it's never really in doubt. The NC State Clemson matchup is going to be really, really big. I do think the winner of that game probably ends up winning that side of the division. But I like Clemson to win that game. So NC State has a chance. I just don't think that they'll have enough to get it done. I like Clemson to win the conference for sure.
What are your thoughts on freshman wide receiver Joshua Burrow?
Yeah, so he had a lot of smoke coming out of 2020 year, and people really liked him in that spring game and thought that there was a lot of the 21 year. I think that people really liked him the last time they saw him in the spring game, battled through some injuries. I don't know if how much of an impact he's going to make. I know that room is just so, there's not like a true number one guy. There's not a, this is our Rashad Green or even Tamorrion Terry or Alden Tate, but the room's really, really deep. And there's a lot of opportunity for anybody that wants to kind of step up and take it to that next level to be able to do it. I don't know if he'll have a crazy year or anything this year. I think next year could kind of be his year to capitalize on that and do really, really well. But I'm not predicting anything crazy out of him this year. I think next year is kind of his year to shine, but that room is wide open. And if he steps up and is making the plays in camp and making the plays in practice, he'll get that opportunity. He'll get that chance for sure.
What are your thoughts on the game against Clemson on September 15th?
It's going to be a tough one for Florida State, without a doubt. I think it's their toughest game on the schedule. Florida State played Clemson fairly well last year, took the lead with 3 minutes to go and had a chance to win it, if not for a couple of penalties and defensive breakdown or two. Really just, they weren't very good on that last drive that Clemson went down and scored on to take the lead. That's going to be an incredibly tough game. I think they're the best team in the conference. I think they'll be right there competing for a spot in the college football playoff again. I don't know if they get in or not, but incredibly tough game. Florida State will have to get into that game very healthy. Can't have any injuries on the offensive line. Can't have anybody missing time. Obviously, you need your quarterback there, so Travis needs to be there for sure. But I think that's a game that Florida State, man, if I had to really call it, I'd say they probably have a 10 to 15% chance of winning. I don't like Florida State's odds in that game. It's also the week after they go on the road and take on a really, really tough NC State team. So I think Clemson ends up getting Florida State there and winning that one, taking the streak to, a game higher. But look, I mean, we'll kind of see what this team is made of when they go up against a really talented LSU team. We'll see what this team is made of when they go up against a really, really talented NC State team the week before. And maybe my mind will change when we get to that week. But as of right now, I think I'd have Clemson winning that game pretty comfortably. About the same margin. I think they'll beat Miami by 14-ish points, somewhere around there.
I'm kind of interested to see what your perspective on this is. What made you a FSU fan?
Yeah, I grew up loving the colors. I love, as a kid, it's hard to, know much about players or teams or anything else like that. I had some family that was Gators and some family that were Noles. I guess I liked the family that were Noles a little bit more, but yeah, I love the colors. I think the uniforms are some of the greatest that we've ever seen. My favorite, I live in Tampa. So my favorite team are all the Tampa teams, but so the Bucks had work done and Derek Brooks, Dexter Jackson, Bradshaw, like all of the greats. Right. And so, had some really, really, fun players from the college, playing on the Bucks. And so, I loved Peter Warrick. I loved Chris Winkie. Those were kind of the guys that were balling when I was younger. And so a mix of all of those things, right? Like, I think that was kind of what shaped me into being an FSU fan, was just the pro guys being from there. The colors are the best in college sports. Garnet and gold is so much better than anything with orange in it. And so, yeah, I think it was kind of all those things when I was a kid that kind of shaped me into being a fan of the Noles.
What is a typical morning like for you on game days?
It depends. It depends on if I'm in Tallahassee or at the game location or at home. If I'm in Tallahassee, it's
Hmm.
typically going. So I'll give you both. It's typically waking up. It depends on what time the kickoff is. If the kickoff's at noon, it wake up pretty early, get out to the tailgate, get stuff going. Games later, 8 o'clock, usually not anything too crazy. I've gone out the night before for sure. So it's kind of waking up and licking my wounds from the night before and going and finding brunch somewhere. I'm a big Mad So fan, so Madison Social gets a lot of my money on game days. Then typically going and resting a little bit again because the tailgate's a long day. Getting to the stadium a few hours before so that we can tailgate and hang out. And it's really just kind of all centered around being with other people if I'm in Tallahassee. If I'm at home, I click on game day at 9 a.m. and I don't move for the next 14 or so hours, right? I get off the couch at about 1 a.m. and finally go to bed at the end of the Pac-12 game. So it's very, very different if I'm home or away. But home, very relaxed, watch the game, watch all the other games. If I'm in Tallahassee, it's a different side of me that comes out because we're all kind of partying before the game starts.
I know that you'll be attending the LSU game. Will you be attending any others?
Yeah. So right now on the calendar, I have the Duquesne game penciled in to go up pinned in. I'm going to that game. Duquesne, LSU, and Louisville. I'm actually going to I didn't even think about that. I'm going to the first 3 games that we play. Then I'm also going to the Clemson game, also going to the Florida game, and then I may go to the Miami game. I'm not 100% sure just yet. It kind of depends on what's going on and if I can get away that many weekends. But yeah, so for now, the first 3 and then Clemson and Florida. I don't think anything else, maybe again, Miami, but I think that's about it.
Which team outside of your conference do you think will have the most intriguing starts in the first 3 or 4 games?
Most intriguing stories, you said?
Like, no, starts.
Oh, like who gets off to a quick start?
Yeah.
I think you could see Florida get off to a quick start, right? I think that if they can find a way to get past Utah week 1, which that'll be a very tough game, and find a way to beat Utah, they then have Kentucky at home, and I kind of like them to beat Kentucky. I know there's a lot of hype around their quarterback, but I think they could beat Kentucky. Then they play USF, so that's a win. They're 3-0. Then they play Tennessee, and that's a tough one. I actually think Tennessee wins that, but then they play Eastern Washington. So now they're 4-1. They have Missouri coming in for homecoming, and Florida could be off to a 5-1 start. Now, the opposite of that is if they lose to Utah and they do drop that game to Kentucky, who does have a really good quarterback coming in, then I think they lose that Tennessee game as well. They could be 3-3 going into that as well. So I think Florida is a team that if they can get past Utah, they could get off to a really, really hot start. You asked about other teams in the conference. Outside of the conference, I know this one's not outside of the conference, but I also think Miami could get off to a hot start. They play Bethune-Cookman week 1, play Southern Miss next. I think they lose the next weekend to Texas A&M, but they could upset A&M. I don't think that's unreasonable, outrageous to think. Then they're going to beat Middle Tennessee State, so they're at worst starting 3-1. They get UNC at home with a new quarterback. Sam Howell's not there. They're going to win that. Again, probably 4-1 at this point, maybe 5-0. And then they play Virginia Tech as kind of their big test. They go on the road and they can beat Virginia Tech. They're probably looking at 5-1, 6-0. And then again, they got Duke coming in after that. So they could legitimately be looking at 6-1 to start the year. At worst, 5-2. I think Miami gets off to a really good start as well. Your favorites like Georgia and Alabama, I think they'll have nice starts, but I also just think they'll have nice seasons completely. So Florida would be my one to watch out for, though, because Florida could really have a nice start to their season. It's very, very light on the front end. It gets tougher with Georgia and A&M and LSU later in the year and Florida State later in the year. But I think that Florida's schedule sets up nicely for them to get off to a hard start if they can beat Utah.
What are your thoughts on UCLA moving to a different conference?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the Big Ten now has a presence and a foothold in Southern California. really just geographically, that's massive for the conference, right? Like as great as Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and all these programs are, it'd be really tough for me to want to go play in that cold, right? It sounds awful. And so being able to then now sell, hey, you're gonna be playing in Southern California every year. Or if you go to UCLA, I mean, obviously, hey, for their side of it, their sell is, hey, not only you get to play in Southern California, now we're in the Big Ten. We're in a massive conference, right? The second best conference that there is. So I think that's huge. I think that conference realignment and the expansion and everything else that we're seeing, it's just going to get crazier. You're going to hear stuff over the next few weeks and months and years of other teams changing up and other teams switching up. And it's fascinating to watch. And it makes for things to be really, really interesting. You're going to have new rivalries like UCLA and USC are going to be playing Ohio State and Michigan. And like, those aren't things that are happening often. And so I think that that's going to be really, really fun. And probably the best thing is that you're going to see a lot of new rivalries formed. And I think that's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it should be a very fun time. Starting on August 27th. I'm definitely looking forward to watching the Vanderbilt Hawaii game on the 27th. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talking Florida State football, and looking forward to having you on soon.
Yeah, anytime. Now that game on the 27th, you mentioned, football starts at 12 o'clock that day. Austin Peay takes on Western Kentucky, and then Vanderbilt Hawaii at 10:30 Eastern. I'm in Tampa, Florida. So 10:30 Eastern time, literally get 11 and a half, 12 hours of football. I'm sorry, 12 and a half, 13-ish hours of football that day. Going to be fantastic. I can't wait for it. But no, thank you so much for having me on. Good luck with the pod and everything else. And yeah, welcome. More than happy to come back anytime, but I appreciate you for sure.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.